Hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about the characteristics of covalent bonds. Let's do that really fast. Of covalent bonds. So I'll give you a little refresher on covalent bonds. So remember, all of our atoms have a certain number of electrons around them. So the easiest way to think about, they have a certain number of electrons, and it's the same number as the number of protons. So lithium has 3. You can see the 3 right here. Beryllium has 4 protons and electrons. Magnesium has 12. Okay, but all of these atoms, they just like middle school kids, sometimes they want to be cool, and the cool people on the periodic table are the noble gases. Okay, I'm trying to click on just the noble gases. It's these ones on the end, the purple ones. Okay, so helium, neon, argon, krypton, all these ones right here. Okay, so they want to get the same number of electrons as those types of atoms way on the right side. Okay. But last time we talked about how sometimes it's really easy for one atom, like lithium, to give an electron to another atom, like fluorine. Then fluorine has 10 electrons, like neon, and lithium has 2 electrons, like helium, and they both get what they want. But sometimes that's not possible. Just like when I talked about how sometimes it's great when you can give a toy to your friend, and maybe you didn't want the toy and you made your friend happy, and your friend has a new toy, so they're happy, and then you're both really happy. It's kind of that doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes you want to keep your toy. So it's the same thing with atoms. Sometimes, for instance, oxygen has 8 electrons, and it wants to get 2 more to become like neon. It doesn't want to give anything away. So what ends up happening is something called a covalent bond. So let's draw, for instance, probably the easiest is hydrogen. So hydrogen, if you click on it, has 1 electron, as you can see here, and it wants to be like helium, which has 2 electrons. So a lot of times hydrogens, they'll come together, and let's draw our 1 proton in hydrogen, and then our 1 electron in hydrogen. So each has 1, but they both want 2. So what happens is the electrons start flying around both hydrogens. Okay, and this forms a substance called H2. This is hydrogen gas. And we've actually made this in our classroom when we had the battery in the water. Okay. So that's what covalent bonds do. It's when they share electrons, so that now it's like both of these kind of have 2 electrons, and the atoms are both happy, which is great. Okay, so that's a refresher on what covalent bonds are. Let's talk about the characteristics of covalent bonds really fast. So last time we talked about how ionic bonds are really strong, and they have really high melting points. Covalent bonds are a little bit weaker. Okay, so let's do our characteristics right here. So the first one is that the bonds are pretty weak. They're not super weak, but they're weaker than ionic bonds. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I need to talk about like that. That basically just means also that the compounds that have covalent bonds have lower boiling points and melting points. Remember how we said that salt, we need to get it up to, like, I think it was, if I remember correctly, like 4,000 degrees for it to boil. That's not the case with covalent bonds. You don't need to make it nearly as hot to get those substances to boil. Okay. Another thing, it's kind of the opposite again of ionic bonds. Remember how we talked about how if you dissolve ionic substances in water, you can make can make the water conduct electricity? Well, for one, covalent bonds do not dissolve in water. So a good example of this is, let me think of a good covalent bond. Well, our skin, actually. Our skin is made of covalent bonds. So it would be a really bad thing if we put our skin in water and it just dissolved, because then we wouldn't have skin anymore. We wouldn't have a hand. But because it's made of covalent bonds, it's durable. It doesn't dissolve in water. And it also, does not conduct electricity. Okay. Okay, I think those are the biggest things with covalent bonds. The covalent bonds, like I've told a couple of students before, are very important. Most of the bonds in our body, most of the bonds in the world are covalent bonds. Ionic bonds are a little bit more rare, but they serve some important functions as well. But it's really important to understand how covalent bonds work and to understand some of their characteristics.